Lights are flashing, hearts are falling. Join the wave, come feel the motion. Dive into this fringe devotion. Stories told and laughter shared. Every stage shows how we care. Dreamers rise and new worlds make in this fringe.
All right.
That's right.
Welcome to this podcast is Uncalled For, live at the 2024 KC Fringe Festival. I am your host, Mike Cherniewski.
Hi, and I'm your co-host, Heather Marie, and thank you very much. It's our last live show. We made it.
Yeah, we made it to the last show. I do not see us getting best of. That's okay.
Well, they do say that you saved the best for last, and not in any way a knock at any of our previous guests, but I'm very, very, very excited for tonight's guest. We have a fellow local mompreneur, entrepreneur, Kansas City realtor, and just all-around incredible woman. Please welcome Miss Samantha Salem. Do you mind sitting in the middle? That way I can, otherwise I end up turning my back to him,
Right.
because I just end up,
I'll sit wherever you put me. I'm glad to be here.
All
right.
Well, we are glad to have you. Very,
And of course,
very
I say in theater, project. So,
Yes, project our voices
Yeah.
to make sure all of our lovely guests can hear us as well.
and especially our tech. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and all of the many, many amazing things that you do.
How much time do you have?
I know we have 1 hour, and it does go by fast.
Okay. Well, my name is Samantha Salem. Where do I start? I'm a local Kansas City real estate agent. I've been living in Kansas City for 17, 18 years now. I'm a mother to 3 children, and I have a lot of businesses, so I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Do you want to know something that I've never realized until this moment?
What?
That is exactly my intro. I'm a local Kansas City real estate agent. And I'm not by comparison, Miss Samantha is an extraordinary human, an extraordinary realtor, but I also I've been in Kansas City in that 17, 18 year range.
Okay.
And I also am a mother of 3 children. And I also have multiple businesses and consider myself a serial entrepreneur.
Are you going to stop copying me now?
You know what? I feel like I should be taking notes. I needed my notepad. I'm like, what's my next
That's why
move?
we partnered so well.
Yeah, that's true.
We one of our endeavors was together too. So
That is true. Well, and that's how we met. So
That's
that
how
would
we
be
met.
kind of a fun place to start. We met in entrepreneurial spaces.
Yes.
Creative entrepreneurial spaces.
Very creative.
What I know about you is the creative is kind of always a component of what you're doing.
It's in my blood. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So what are you working on right now?
Oh God. Okay. Well, I just launched my travel design business where I help people design and cultivate memories within the trips that they do. So the boring way to say that is I'm a travel agent, but I don't
You
like
don't do
boring.
anything boring. Yeah,
I don't
no,
like boring.
No,
No.
you curate experiences. So this actually feels like it aligns very well with your natural skill set. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I did see recently, making sure that you guys are following Samantha, and we'll tag her socials at some point in time. But did you say you're going to go on your first cruise?
I am.
Okay.
I am a very motion sickness prone person, so this is kind of exciting, kind of like scary, but why not? I can do it, so let's go.
Yeah. Well, I've never been on a cruise for kind of that same reason. So
Come with me.
I was going to say in the follow suit.
I'm trying to bring a whole group with me, so I don't feel seasick alone. So that would be really nice to have like throw up buddies.
Yeah, right. Although I think they've come a long ways with like motion sickness medicine now. Like we would need to do some significant research beforehand to at least like stack the deck in our favor a little bit.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
This, by the way, is funny coming to me as someone who joined the Navy out of high school.
So you've been on a ship or two.
I have.
Yeah. What was a pretty big ship that you were on?
Oh yeah, aircraft carriers. For those who've never seen one in person, they're floating cities.
Oh, wow.
You know, they're that big. Yeah.
I was told a cruise was a floating resort, so let's see how that goes.
Right.
It sounds like a petri dish to me, honestly, but
Well, that's
let's go.
As a matter of fact, you're right. Let's just stay far away from that because I too have heard cruise horror
Exactly.
stories. Yeah, so no.
This
I'm excited
podcast is
to
not for
learn.
that.
I'm excited to learn though that you will be doing cool things with that. I'm excited about your first cruise.
Thank you.
Because in a true follow Samantha pattern, obviously, like, you know, if it works for you, it might work for me. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll bring you on. We'll go.
So travel industry, and I know that you do a lot of vlogging. Traveling's kind of been a passion of yours for a long time.
It has, and this business, honestly, I was trying to push it away for a very long time, but it just caught up to me. Like I couldn't get away from it. I do travel quite a bit. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been traveling at least once a month minimum. So it just kind of naturally came into play where, you know, sometimes I travel for work and sometimes I don't, but it just made sense.
Yeah.
It made sense.
So the travel industry aligned kind of just made sense. That was just an opportunity that was provided to you. Real estate, how long have you been doing real estate for?
8+ years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you were there pre-COVID through
COVID.
Yes.
Yes.
Through that, and then now kind of we're seeing kind of an interesting. Of course, right now we're still in that that kind of downward turn, but then adding presidential elections, and it's an interesting real estate climate. Would you agree with that?
I agree about the interesting part.
Yeah.
Let's just see how it goes, because I don't feel comfortable making predictions in the real estate market because I've not been successful at that. So we take one day at a time.
We do. My experience has been, and I will say, like, I'm not making a prediction either, is that it seems like real estate is always happening. So sometimes it's just mitigating the fears associated with that and then meeting the needs of who's buying and selling in those markets. But
Absolutely.
it turns out that people are always needing to go into home.
They need shelter.
Yeah.
They're going to have to buy or sell at some point, whether it's for pain or pleasure, hopefully more pleasure. But
Upsizing,
there's nothing
downsizing,
pleasurable about
no.
these interest rates right now. So, yeah. But the good agents flow as water with water, and we just go with the flow, and
Just kind of take it as it
either
comes.
you make it or you break it.
Yeah,
at this
answer the
point.
questions as they come in, and if we don't know, then we just help find the answers, because that's what we do.
Yes.
We do.
Yep.
So, travel extraordinaire, curating experiences, real estate agent. What else is in your mompreneur business right now?
Well, I've been a real estate investor for a while. I've done almost everything. Done the flipping and the buy and holds and the smaller real estate residential. I've done the apartment complexes. We've done the glamping and stuff together, and experiential, more of the hospitality, Airbnb side of things, long-term, short-term, mid-term, all of the things. So I'm kind of sick of that now.
Okay.
I have ADHD and I need new things all the time. So I'm kind of phasing that part out because I want to open up more of my time towards more of the travel, because that's always been my full-time goal, is to do the travel full-time, and then more of like the organizing, social activism type of thing, because that brings more of the meaning, I guess. It's more fulfillment, personal fulfillment, and hopefully one day we could change the world.
I think that the world is changed by consistent small actions and people that care.
Absolutely, we need
So-
more empathy and hearts.
And just, I had I shared recently a conversation that I was having. This was years ago the conversation took place, but I was running for an office and I was being told while having a conversation about just an important thing at that time that I was writing the fence. And I'm like, I'm here to tell everybody that it's an imaginary fence. We are
put
so
that fence?
intentional. Yes, and what is the intention of the fence? You know, like there's no real them, it's all us, and it's this idea of having to choose a side by default alienates really important facts on both sides. So it's an interesting thing, and I'm glad to know that Glad to know that that's among your passions. So, as an activist, and kind of a segue into things that inspire me about you, Samantha, are you, as far as your heritage, where are you from? If you wouldn't mind sharing with everybody.
Okay, so I was born in New Jersey. Boring. But my father is Palestinian, and he was born in Gaza City, and my mother, I now know, is Chinese, born in Vietnam, and she came to the States during the Vietnam War as a refugee. And my father came to the States with a student visa from Gaza around the same time. So they met in New Jersey, and that's where my birthplace happened. But very recently, when I was putting all the pieces together, I'm like, I'm a byproduct of war. And it made me dig a little deeper, like, who caused these wars? Why were my parents kicked out of their homes and had to seek shelter in a new place? Why did this and this and this happen? And it just baffled my mind. I lived in Gaza for 10 years during my teenage years. So I was there from 9 to 19, my formative years. I was able to learn Arabic, learn more of a religion, the culture, the tradition. I got to play with the thousands of cousins that I have. I don't know the definite number yet. It's just still continuing. But I've been able to get the best of both worlds because I was raised here till 9, let's say 10. So a whole decade in the U.S. and then a whole decade in Palestine. And then I came back to the U.S. as a very just informed person as a young adult because I had experienced a lot of different things.
Yes.
So
From your own perspective, your own experience.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm Palestinian.
That is amazing. So you are Palestinian and Chinese by your heritage. You're born in New Jersey, which is its own different story. And
I was told I have an accent, but if I have an accent, it's like 30 years old. So I don't know.
I can barely notice.
You can notice.
Well, my father's from Pittsburgh, and I often get accused of having an East Coast accent.
Coast vibe, yeah. Well, I was 9 when I left, so it shouldn't matter.
Maybe it's kind of one of those collective accents of.
It's English, and you can understand me. That's
Yeah.
all that matters.
Yeah, that's all I agree.
By and large, no, I agree with that also. So, by comparison to all of that, how did you end up in Kansas City?
Marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thankful that all of those paths brought you here, because then we got to know one another, and through starting businesses and things that I've learned about you were, just indomitable. There's nothing that
You're
aren't
sweet.
willing. I'm
And
honest.
you use really big words.
That's indomitable. It just means unable to be dominated. Like this woman is the epitome of perseverance and just making things happen. And so I'm very, very glad that you ended up in Kansas City.
Thank you.
But in a kind of a frank way, I'm a very frank person. How has it been as a Palestinian American these last, I don't know, I would say these last 30 plus years, but sincerely recently, I know you brought activism as part of your mission. Is that a part of that alignment there?
Yeah. I don't know how to answer that because it's hard to put that in words. Survivor's guilt comes to mind because I'm here and not there kind of vibe. You know how that thought process goes, but also grateful that I'm here and not there so I can do something to help maybe in some way or form, but also I'm only here because of a piece of paper and a sheer stroke of luck. So it wasn't anything that I earned to be here. So it's very conflicting. It's excruciating. I'm trying to say big words too, okay? Damn it. It's very painful. It's very painful to sit here and watch and worry and not sleep at night, not knowing what's happening. I already lost family in this current genocide. I lost my grandmother, who I loved very, very dearly, and she passed on Christmas Day, which to us, we're Muslim, we don't really celebrate, but it's a very significant day, so I feel like very memorable. And my cousin, Amani, she was 42, and she was killed in her home with a random bomb just blowing up their house. She was within the elusive safety of her own home, and she couldn't, get away from all of the chaos and an absolute just murder that's happening right now. So my 100% of my family is displaced. More than half of our homes are rubble. My personal childhood home is still standing, but it's half broken. It's going to take a lot to rebuild, but it's standing. And see, this is where we're at. We're very grateful that our home is standing. That's what you're comparing with the rest of the Gaza Strip, where 70% of it is completely decimated, completely gone.
Well, so in Gaza right now, there is no safe space.
No.
In Gaza.
We don't know what safe means.
And really almost never have in your lifetime.
There was very, let's say, I don't know what to tell you, but life there had, we just went with it because that was the thing to do. Because it's either you move on with your life every day with a positive mindset and gratitude that you're alive, or you're going to be defeated. And then you're going to wallow. And we don't do that. We just don't. The resilience and the perseverance of our people has been extremely inspiring. And we're like, okay, you're going to take away my home, I have a tent. You're going to take away my tent, I have this. You're not going to give me food, I'm going to make food. You know what I mean? There is never a time where I'm like, whoa, me, I don't have these things, therefore I must wallow. You know what I mean? It's not an option for us. There was no choice. So you have to keep moving forward and pushing forward with what you can and what you have, with the circumstances that are man-made, that were forced on you. This is not a natural food disaster or a famine. This is all man-made, created, and forced
Upon I
for
appreciate-
ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
Pretty much is what it is.
I appreciate the use of frank language and the use of the word genocide. Mm-hmm. It is regardless of how anybody would feel, we as a global community have witnessed attempts and effective genocide historically and have stood united in the understanding that this is wrong, right? And to watch this on a global stage in real time is something that is incomprehensible. And to know, I remember when we were doing Sweet Tea and doing creative, amazing things, and this is where part of my admiration for you stems from, is there was a point, and this was around Easter time, and there was supposed to be a ceasefire. And we're doing cool stuff. And there was a bombing that took place during the ceasefire. And you showed up, and you guys you were very open. You're like, I'm sorry that I'm not all here today. This happened. And I was naive to the gravity of what was taking place there. And of course, what became an excuse last October to validate a genocide that nobody can be naive to. You know, I happen to know you, and you happen to share with me something that caused me to seek information, and then I was deeply impacted by the reality of what was going on and what your family was going through. I remember you went to Gaza relatively recently. How long ago was that?
That was October of 2022, ironically, a year before I knew everything was going to fall apart. My grandmother, I talked to her on the phone, and she basically was like, when am I ever going to see you again? I need to see you before I die. And I hadn't seen her for 9 years prior to that. So I did what every good granddaughter does.
Traveled halfway around the world.
I booked a ticket. The only amount of time I was able to leave work was 10 days. I was able to secure like the kids and everything. And out of those 10 days, it took me 5 to get there and come back. So I only spent 5 actual real days inside Gaza and seeing my family and my friends and all the things that were happening there. And I documented the heck out of that trip.
Good.
On my Instagram, there's a bunch of highlights that say like Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, wherever I was documenting everything. So, I'm so thankful that I was able to go.
I learned so much about Gaza in that time, and watching you and your grandmother, and you call her
Tzitzi.
and picking olives, and that smile.
Yeah.
You and her have this just infectious smile, just all of your face, just in your eyes light up. So I too am thankful that you documented that journey and the amount of time being able to cross very small barriers. These are things that, you know, us in the United States, I travel back and forth to Kansas. I drove all the way to North Dakota and Minnesota, and I passed many borders and did so freely. You know, those are things that I think people take for granted, the reality of this space and of what that was like.
Yeah, it's easier to get on a spaceship and go to the moon than it is to enter Gaza. And this is before this. This is just regular days. And I only strictly have U.S. citizenship passport. I don't have any Palestinian paperwork. And it was extremely difficult for me to get in. And I had to beg and plead with them. And if my dad wasn't physically there, they probably wouldn't have let me in either. I was like, I'm only here for my grandmother. It's just 5 days. I will sign here on my return. I will be here literally in 5 days. You will see me again. Please let me in. It took a very long time, but they finally did let me in. And I'm grateful for that too. But it took 2.5 days to get there from here, and 2.5 days to come back, and a lot of money. A lot of money. Not tickets or flights. No, you have to pay people to let you in.
But it was worth every
Absolutely.
cent.
Every single cent was worth it. 100%. And I now have documentation of what Gaza looked like before all of this, because it's going to take us decades and decades to rebuild and to figure out where to put all these people and how are they going to live again like decent human beings. Like, how do we bring them back their basic human rights? That's it. Like, that's
Yeah,
it.
no, I agree. Thank you, Michael. How do you bring back basic human rights that have been robbed in the most brutal ways? And how do you expect, or what is the expectation, not how do you expect, but what is the expectation of, and globally, unfortunately, there's human atrocities taking place all over, and we acknowledge that, right? And
There's
we're not
8 genocides going on right now.
taking place actively. And what's interesting to me, and in a very open way, we have a global stage. This information is available to us in real time. So there's very little excuse. Now, there is some navigating the news and what is available to you. And I am thankful that we live in a country that still we have access to alternative news sources. Because on a global scale, there are places that they quite literally don't know these things are going on because they don't have access to the information.
I would argue that a little bit.
I'm prefacing this with that to say that with taking out whatever limited access to the information that exists, right? Like taking out your marginalized excuses. There is no excuse. This is we
Exactly.
all are watching this in real time.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
there are largely agreed upon on a global level that this is not okay. We've watched this happen before. So how do we remedy this? Like, it feels to me like there should be people that, you call or we're like, hey, this is happening now. How do we stop this? And then those people are like, oh, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. And this is coming from somebody who's never experienced a moment like you've experienced. My grandmother was my best friend. I got to hold her hand while she took her last breath. And I have cried for you and still known that would never be enough for what you have experienced in that.
Yeah. I'd like to say a few things. So, first of all, genocide is wrong, period. Bibi should be in prison right now. And anyone who argues otherwise, well, they can F off.
Thank you, Michael.
And
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm pulling back a little bit. He can fuck off. All right? Same with Russia. Is Ukraine being considered one of those genocides right now?
I think so.
I would
Okay.
agree, yeah.
Yeah, Ukraine. Okay. I'm neither Ukrainian nor Russian. I am Polish. So we are still Slavic brothers and everything. But what Russia is doing right now is equally disgusting. And for anyone to sit back and say it's okay, like a certain presidential candidate, who, by the way, is a convicted felon 34 times over and also belongs in prison. He can fuck himself too.
I don't know, Michael.
All right, and let's not forget, if Ukraine were to fall to Russia, and to their credit, they have not. Poland's next. All right, and the Polish people, we've had to deal with Russians and we've had to deal with Nazis over our fairly recent history as a people. Enough is enough, and I'm glad that they've stepped up and been leaders in that situation. So,
Appreciate that.
I do too. I actually appreciate your passion and the way that you advocate for things, and I will stand on a part of that. Genocide is wrong. Global stage, like, we should know better. We do have history repeating itself, and at what point in time are people held accountable? And historically that did take place. I know that you have mentioned your activism and your advocacy. I would like to share, you have some things that are, well, just tell me about kind of your journey. Like, you have some t-shirts and some stickers and your mission and the mission tagline of Free Palestine, right? So how do we help, I guess is what how do we help?
I'm like,
What
Heather,
can we
you're
do?
all over the place.
I am. I'm
What
all
are
over
you
the place,
saying?
and I want to know, what can we do to help? How can we support? Because at some point in time, this becomes a this is not a political issue. This is not a religious issue. This is a humanitarian issue. And I heard forgive me for anybody that takes this the wrong way, but I heard a comparison at one point in time referring to dogs, okay? And you have dogs that you beat repeatedly, and at some point in time, that dog bites you back. And you use that as an excuse to shoot the fucking dog. And the end of this comparison is the reality that Palestinians are not fucking dogs. The analysis of any kind of comparison where you are not recognizing human beings as human beings, you've lost. There's no more argument. And any excuse to eliminate, or as you use the words, ethnic cleansing, is wrong. It needs to be addressed adamantly and upfront. So I appreciate you. Let us know how we can help, aside from being real pissed off about it.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you're allowed to be really pissed off about it very vocally, very loudly, everywhere you are. And to all the people that you know, your family, your friends, your social media, don't be scared. It's not the time to be scared anymore. Educate yourself. Speak to a fellow Palestinian, speak to a fellow anybody that knows more than you. It's not wrong to unlearn things that you've been taught. It's not wrong to seek more information and ask questions. Turn on your thinking caps and just hear what you listen to in the media and be like, wait, was that really true? Did that really happen? Let me go look into that more, because we need to do more of that critical thinking thing,
Yes.
you know, like with the brains and how they work.
Yeah.
If we can do a little bit more of that, I feel like we would be in a much better place.
I
But
feel
also,
like that's a broad scale statement right now.
that's very vague,
Yes.
very, very general.
Well, no, but she's absolutely right. Like, use your brain.
Yeah.
Use your brain. Absolutely right. Sorry.
This is
Yeah.
the whole media literacy argument all over again. So first of all, I obviously have a background in media production. I mean, we're participating in a podcast right now, but even before that, I did public television
Oh,
for a little
cool.
bit. Yeah,
That's fun.
yeah, right over here at KCPT. Did an internship, came back, worked a couple times as a volunteer, worked a couple times paid. They do a really good job, PBS does, of keeping personal bias out of their coverage. Now, something else that really pisses me off is anyone who dares to say anywhere, oh, the American media has a liberal bias. No, they don't. They really don't. Look at the media that we consume on a daily basis. Most of it is owned by corporations. Corporations have a profit motive. All right. Anything, they'll report on anything as long as it makes them money. That is the cold, hard truth. Do some of these outlets do a good job? Yeah. Others, well, not so much. If you want real journalism, BBC and a bunch of the other foreign outlets, I think, do a
Yeah.
far superior job than anything that comes out of the U.S. PBS and NPR included, unfortunately.
I'm glad you brought media up, because I wanted to kind of
Yeah.
address what you spoke about before. So the way the media works, especially in favor of this, in this context, is what we call propaganda. It is a it is designed propaganda, basically, to be consumed by the ignorant, for lack of a better word, ignorant people that are listening. And the easiest way to understand more of how in-depth this, process is, they literally have it down to a science or an art. Go to occupationmovie.org. It is a free documentary online for anybody to watch. It is called The Occupation of the American Mind.
Nice.
That literally speaks exactly to how are you hearing the things that are being said and all the lies that are being, spoken, is in that bullet point. Like, if they say this, say this. If they say this, say this. And they're taking us American people as ignorance. They take us as idiots, and we just consume it, and we hear it from here, and we keep repeating it, and we don't look into how accurate it is. We don't look into if it's right or wrong. We don't look into the alternate history of the other side and what's really happening. And thanks COVID for bringing us TikTok, because now we're watching a live stream genocide right in front of our eyes without the media coverage, which is why they wanted to ban TikTok to begin with.
Correct.
If you really think about it, it's
Absolutely.
not because of China.
Might not be a-
It is absolutely
Chinese,
not because of
Well,
China.
no. And honestly, Chinese TikTok looks entirely different than ours.
Right.
We use it as an entertainment following into that versus
Yeah.
like an educational tool could be.
It's no longer
And,
just cat videos.
And for the record, all ignorant means is that you don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And it's you're correct in what you're saying, but sometimes people take a word like that and it that becomes the offense point, and now it's like, oh, okay, no, ignorance is not an insult; it's a reality, and the way to cure ignorance is to educate yourself.
Yeah. Which is going to get to the next point I want to make. I was actually on a ad hoc committee, Legal Women Affairs of Johnson County. They put together an ad hoc committee to study media literacy. How do we address it? How do we get more people to take the time to actually think about what they're consuming and everything? And interesting side note, another member of that ad hoc committee was a woman by the name of Sharice Davids.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything.
That's I'm not either.
All right.
The only political thing that I have to say right now is partisanship is the demise of democracy. That's all I have to say.
There are two sides to the same coin.
It's
Literally the same exact thing.
And we were warned about it at the beginning of the whole like writing of the paper and all the things, and yet here we are. So, yeah.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about who do we call? I just wish we had someone to call and make all this stop. We have people to call. We've been calling them every day for the last 10 months, but they choose not to do anything about it because they're paid. And who are they paid by?
Exactly.
So you want to go into that rabbit hole and then go dive down deep into how our politicians came to seats. And then the more I learn about politics, the more my mental health just goes down the drain this way. And the only way to really save the world is to abolish all governments. I mean, I'm going to say it loud and clear. We need to start over. The U.S. needs to take a break, stay single for 4 years, and then learn about herself.
They say you need like a month for every year you've been married. We should work out
then
like
we
what
need
that
way
time.
more than 4 years. But
Way ahead of you there.
it's just literally how it is, because no matter how you look, blue or red or whatever, it was designed for the politicians to grow and for the people to just stay not free. We're not free people. We really are not free people.
I definitely agree that we've evolved here over time and amendments and media. So I would say even especially in the last 70 years, that it kind of feels like a puppet show. And
it's a bad one.
that's difficult to say, because just as from a very stark difference, as just a woman raising 3 daughters in America, I have felt always this gratitude for being born in this country. And well, now I live in the state of Missouri. So like it's hard, you kind of take off the blinders, and I am thankful to have been born here, and I am thankful for where I live, and I am thankful for the freedoms that I do have and that my daughters do have, because there are freedoms that do exist in that way. And I've never lived anywhere else, so I don't really get a fair basis of comparison of how great or how little being able to cross Kansas state line, is.
That's why I'm in travel. You need somebody to
Girl,
talk
I will.
to.
Yes, no. I can assure you,
Travel
you are my
opens
travel
up-
person.
Travel opens up hearts and minds
Yeah.
and empathy. And I wish every single person in school was mandated at least like a week outside of the U.S.
Well, yeah,
A lot of our problems would change.
Like foreign exchange, we have a number of. So I'm in Belton, but we have a number of families, and there are oftentimes foreign exchange that come here for this experience. So
Yeah.
yes, like we should also be participating in foreign exchange programs and sending kids abroad.
Did you ever think at one point in life that you would be living in a state, in a situation where your daughters had less rights than you?
No.
We're
As
in
a matter of fact,
2024.
when the talk of Roe v. Wade came up and returning it over, I was like, no, that's ridiculous. And that was that's one of many, I suppose, over time, where I was just like, damn. And then it wasn't just that, right? Then came Missouri, who was ready because this had been in talks for a while, and then once that was passed, Missouri was like, boom, legislation. And now, you know, and no, I did not see that coming. I didn't see it coming so much that I laughed at it while it was square in my face. Which, by the way, is ignorance. Okay, like I was not educated on it. I was ignorant to the reality of what of the powers that existed and how easily those rights could be taken away.
I'm very ignorant about a lot of things, and I'm trying my best to understand them within the 2 brain cells that I have left. But it's just that the short answer was just, no matter where you go, no matter how you try to do things, the government was built and designed to stop you.
I like the idea of relying more on ourselves and like what you do, like self-governance. There are a lot of powers for us to, like, for creating podcasts, for example, and holding conversations. And I challenge people to hold themselves also to a higher standard of self-governance. So I don't disagree, like particularly, and this would be a whole nother show about the
I could stay here
system.
forever.
And we should do this again. We should do this again. But when it comes to like the systemic classism and racism that is built into our systems right now, it's undeniable, and those are very difficult conversations. And most times they end up to slow-moving processes in government, in legislation, in lobbying, in, you know, making concessions here, and it's in these slow-moving processes. And what doesn't have to be a slow-moving process is somebody doesn't have to tell us how to behave. So collectively, there's a lot of opportunity, in my own opinion, for us to raise our own bar when it comes to self-governance and not just relying or requiring somebody else to tell us that we, you know, like, oh, you should do this. And then we're like, oh, okay, well, the government said that we should do this kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's where the key thing is here, is that if you feel that way but you don't speak up about it, you're going to stay alone in that. But if you and I and him and everybody here come together and then we slowly spread that, we have community, we have people, we have numbers.
And the intention of creating safe spaces for these conversations. So it's not even about like, and you and I set good examples. I acknowledge my own ignorance on a topic. It's not, you know, creating a space where it's not about being defensive or attacking. Like, we're educating and we're learning. And I attended a affordable housing, so
That's a whole nother
That's a whole other
Never
thing.
thought of that.
But I attended a
look forward to
short
that discussion.
seminar on affordable housing, and the one piece of it that I will touch on is she was talking about, again, referring to just the systemic classism and racism that still exists. And even though it's not necessarily written into HOA, it's just the way that neighborhoods and development and access to affordable housing, which comes with affordable food and quality public education and access to all of those things. In that, you recognize like the lack of diversity. And she talked about, you know, how if you go to a city council meeting and they're like, you know, we should add an apartment building, and the people who live in that community who maybe don't want an apartment building in their community are the ones that get to veto yes or no on that vote, that becomes this inherent, it's the same thing. Yeah. It's not written in the HOA, but it can't be built here because the people that live here say so. And this conversation of like, you know, wanting to live with, it's like, we are a diverse world. And if you don't want to live with other people that don't look like you, then you're out of luck. There is no longer like, there's no excuses, no go here, no, we're allowed to convene, and not everybody's meant to be friends with everybody, but nobody's saying that. But we live in a diverse world, and you have to accept that. You have to accept that. Okay?
Yeah. This is basically Prairie Village right now, is what you're describing.
It's in the real estate world, it's a lot of communities, and I'm super again frank. Kansas City is experiencing a lot of just outright gentrification right now because we are growing very, very rapidly. There is a lot of interest, and especially commercial interest, in purchasing Kansas City single-family homes and anything else that's available for sale. So there's a lot that is happening on a large scale, and that is among it.
You know what would help with affordable housing? not sending our tax dollars for genocide, not buying weapons. You know, maybe if I'm asking for too much, we can get free education, maybe free healthcare. I haven't had health insurance in like more than 5 years because I can't afford it.
Because,
Right.
yeah.
And
on
it's a
top of-
ripoff, honestly. Maybe if we kept those dollars home, we can have a better life.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Maybe
I
if we
don't know.
didn't,
It might be a radical idea,
maybe
but
if we didn't give tax breaks to billionaires and people who can afford to pay taxes, you know, they should be paying their taxes, and, you know, so maybe all these things.
I
Yeah.
agree. I
Well,
agree.
It all comes back to how do we make these changes? Because abolishing the government is not really on the you
Well,
know,
and then
on
I
the
think
floor right
honestly,
now.
a lot of that, and ooh, girl, self-governance.
Yeah,
Like, we
we
get to
need
choose.
to speak up.
Yes.
We need to collectively come together and speak up. And what's the strongest power of speaking up you have right now is voting. Voting, yes, in a broken system, but if enough of us come together and say, this is what we want, this is what we demand, this is what we deserve, and the government and all of the politicians are literal public servants that are supposed to serve their own people,
Say
maybe
it
we can
again.
remind them of that, and then, maybe change might happen, but we have to do that together. I can't do that by myself, and you can't
Absolutely.
either.
No.
And,
Absolutely.
like, we have to collectively come together to create the change that we want in this world, because the people we elected are no longer seeking that for us. So everybody's just, I need my pockets, I need my jets, I need my whatever the heck they do
Yeah.
with their money,
Yeah.
and they don't care about us.
Yeah.
It's
They don't.
this very nation was formed under ideals, very much like what you're referencing.
Absolutely.
There
Absolutely.
was
And
battles
it's-
fought,
and
taxation
those of
without
us-
representation. We don't do that.
Those of us who actually believe in democracy and want to hold up these values and do right by the people, we're being muscled out by money interests. All right. And while I'm saying fuck you to certain leaders, I got a special fuck you to a certain Overland Park City Councilman by the name of Logan Healy. He can fuck off. All right. Stop calling yourself a Democrat, pal.
Well, I know that we are going to be closing out on time so much. Do you have anything else that you would like to share with everybody before we close out for today?
Girl, you don't ask me questions.
I was
that.
like, I know, I would love to have you back on. I would love to
Yeah.
just sit, and it almost felt like I was all over the place because there's so much I'd like to talk to you about.
Well, I
and-
asked you when I started, how much time do you have?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
I
know.
tried, but
Yeah.
okay. So in terms of Palestine and Gaza, and what can we do to help? Our local Kansas City organizations are putting so much effort and time and labor into trying to help educate the community on what to do. So you want to go and on Instagram and Facebook, you're going to go and follow Free Palestine KC.
Free Palestine KC.
And then you're going to follow El Hadaf KC. ALHADAF KC. These are the two Palestinian-led organizations that are basically, we're doing the work, so you don't have to. You just need to show up.
Okay.
You just need to show up. You just need to be educated. You just need to come to all of the things that we're putting together. That is the easiest way to be more informed of policy and what's happening overseas, and actually learning from the people that are being, affected by this, and what we're doing with city council and what we're doing with all the other stuff. So there's a lot that goes into that. Education is key. You mentioned the shirts and stuff that I designed. So I have here on this table for the people who are here. I personally designed a couple shirts and some stickers and whatnot to help fundraise for my family in Gaza, because I have 120 plus people that are still there living in tents in this blazing heat with very limited food and water and health care. And I'm trying to do my part, survivor's guilt, we talked about that. Trying to do what I can on my end to help, bring something over there. Their situation is completely, you can't
Dire.
even think about it. Like, even if I send them money, there is no cash flow because they have been
Right.
under siege for the last 10 months with no access, no borders. So the inflation that they are having to deal with is nothing compared to ours. We have access to everything we want. We have the ability to choose which kind of apple we want. They don't have apples. You know what I mean? So just to get the cash to use to buy and purchase this highly inflated food item that they direly need, that maybe they only eat one meal a day, it's just like, I can't sleep at night. Like, it's bad. It's extremely, extremely beyond anything I've ever experienced or thought of in my life. I like watch the videos that come out of there. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It is hard. The human brain was not made to consume this type of content because it was not supposed to happen. But every other day, I see a beheaded child on my feet, and it completely breaks me down. And then I'm trying slowly to build my strength up again, and then it happens again, and again, and again. And you have to be informed to feel the rage, to bring the energy that change needs. And stay angry and stay informed, because that's what we need. That's the fuel that we need.
I will say that she's right. Like, through seeking information, I woke up this morning to a media clip from a bombing on a refugee camp, and they packaged a very small little girl into this white bag. And you watch, and these, I hate to use the word handlers, but these gentlemen that are like, they're moving her in. They don't share this anymore, because this is not even the only one in this pile, let alone the days. And how do you do that and continue to care on? Because the respect is to be able to take care of your deceased, and you can't just leave them there. And what do you do? And so I will say with a strong warning that it is not for the weak, but if you cannot look at it, then look at it. Like, if you can acknowledge, like, I can't see this doesn't make it less real. It doesn't make it less real, and it doesn't make it change. So if you already know that you can't, and I don't care who you are or what religion you are, or what you believe in, or whose side of what you are on ever, if you can look at that and say that little baby deserved it, we're not the same, and there's no communication for us. You can step aside, you can carry on. There is no room there.
There's also something, if you could be self-aware of the privilege that you have to be able to just shut it off and put it aside and go about your day. This is our daily life. My cousins don't even know if they're going to wake up the next day. They don't know where they're going to get their next meal from. They can't turn it off. They can't just set it aside and then, go do their thing and come back. So I feel like at this point, we owe it to them to feel that pain. Witness and feel and amplify their voices. Amplify their voices by speaking to your friends and family and neighbors. Share their videos on social media. Literally do anything that you can within your means that will bring light to their plight, because we are censored so heavily. Thank you, Meta. It's not even funny. And I'm like, we're showing you we are being murdered and killed and bombed and
asking for help.
And then that's being censored because what? Look into that.
I will say that as somebody who was raised Christian, that's what bearing witness is. So there's no shield. There's no excuse for a blind eye, and it doesn't make it go away. It just shows, like you said, that's your privilege.
All right. And unfortunately, we're going to cut it off because I have some thank yous to give before we wrap this up. So my first thank you to Heather. You've been a great co-host, and I look forward to continue to work with you as we make this podcast the best podcast it can be.
Thank you.
I want to thank all my guests over this Fringe. So let's start with Samantha because she's right here. So thank you.
I really appreciate you putting this together.
Yeah.
I really do.
Also thank yous to Megan Spencer, Brian Boy, Mike Pohl, Terrence Hayes, George M. Dean. Thank y'all.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
guys.
you to KC Fringe for putting this together. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to create content in front of a live audience. Thank you to this building that we're in right now, the Independence Boulevard Christian Church. You guys are true Christians, all right? Unlike some of these people that we've been talking about. A special thank you to Hannah, our amazing
Yes,
tech.
thank you very much, Ms. Hannah.
Thank you to everyone who's ever been on the podcast. Thank you to everyone who's ever listened to the podcast. And an extra special thank you to Ben Chernevsky Jr. I call him Dad.
Go, Dad.
For those of you probably don't know, because I really haven't talked about it, my car's been in the shop for the entire CF Fringe. And I want to thank him for letting me use his vehicle during the past week plus. I hope to get that car out of the shop here in a couple of days, but so thank you, Dad. I appreciate it, and that's all the thank yous. And thank you for coming.
Yeah,
tonight.
thank you guys
I
very much
appreciate
for
it.
coming and joining our
So
show.
that will wrap up our first live Fringe experience. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
This podcast is Uncalled For is hosted, produced and edited by Mike Chernevsky. Opening music for our KC Fringe program is Welcome to Fringe, courtesy of Suno.com. Outro music for our KC Fringe program is Fantasia by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you are in the United States or Canada, you can call us at 816-832-5160. Leave your message or question for us, and if we like it, we will play it on the podcast. Please support the podcast and purchase our exclusive Uncalled For merchandise. T-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, stickers, and so much more. Go to www.cafepress.com/uncalledforpod. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.